The amazing story begins in the 18th century, where a lady named Lawrence lived with her 3 very dear children in a desolate house. This house was located deep in the forest, with no other houses nearby. It was shown that there was no electricity in Lawrence's house, as electricity had not yet been discovered at that time. People used candles to perform all their tasks. Lawrence had a maid who took care of all the household chores and looked after her 3 children. One day, Lawrence was sitting with her children in the hall and talking to them when she suddenly noticed a white cloth moving towards the lower room. Lawrence became a little scared and went down to check, but little did she know that leaving her children behind would be a huge mistake. As she moved, she heard strange noises and followed them, going in the opposite direction. Suddenly, she heard screams coming from her children's room. Lawrence rushed back to her children's room, but to her horror, her son had disappeared. When she asked her daughter what had happened, the daughter said that a dangerous, black man had taken her brother. Now, Lawrence was terrified. Suddenly, the maid called her from below because she heard her son's screams coming from the storeroom. They both searched around the house, but found nothing. However, when Lawrence went to check on her daughter, she too was gone. All 3 of Lawrence's children had mysteriously vanished. She had no idea who was behind this or how her children had been kidnapped in such a short time. Lawrence, along with the maid, searched the entire house in hopes of finding her son. Unfortunately, they found nothing. Then suddenly, Lawrence saw the white cloth again, and it seemed like someone was behind it. Lawrence and her maid began to think that perhaps it was her son, so they rushed toward it without thinking. However, they could hear the voice of a frightening man coming from it. The voice grew louder as Lawrence and her maid carefully removed the white cloth, only to find that there was no one behind it. It was completely empty. This terrified them even more. Lawrence couldn't understand what was happening in her house, or where her 3 children had gone in such a mysterious way. They continued to hear strange, demonic screams. Some months later, the scene shifts to a paranormal investigator, a woman who was helping one of her clients solve a problem. Paranormal investigators are people who communicate with demons and spirits to understand their motives and help free people from their haunting. Lawrence, still deeply troubled by the disappearance of her children, decided to seek the help of this investigator. However, when she entered the office without permission, the investigator was very angry, as she was already working with another client. Despite this, Lawrence insisted, and the investigator finally refused to help her and asked her to leave. Confused and desperate, Lawrence was about to leave when another woman named Kelly entered the office. Kelly was the assistant of the paranormal investigator. She approached Lawrence, asking what her problem was. Lawrence explained everything, how she believed a spirit was haunting her home and had kidnapped her children. She even mentioned hearing disturbing sounds from her house, among which were the voices of her children, as though they were still alive and calling for help. After hearing Lawrence's heartbreaking story, Kelly responded that she was ready to help. She decided to go to Lawrence's house and assist her in finding answers. Lawrence was relieved and grateful that at least someone was willing to help her. Kelly went to Lawrence's house to help her. Upon arriving, Kelly noticed that Lawrence had covered all the mirrors in the house with cloth. When Kelly asked about it, Lawrence explained that she kept seeing the evil spirit in the mirrors. However, when Kelly opened the mirrors to check, she saw nothing. The house had originally belonged to Lawrence's husband, and it was a symbol of his family. But a few years ago, Lawrence's husband had mysteriously died, and since then, she had been living there with her children. Kelly asked Lawrence many questions about the house and where the disturbing sounds were coming from. Lawrence pointed to her children's room, saying that the scariest sounds came from there. Kelly then took her rods, used for sensing paranormal activity, to determine where the disturbances were strongest. When she entered the room with the rods, she began to feel something unusual. She kept repeating, "If your spirit is here, give me a sign." Suddenly, Lawrence felt as though she was slapped, and then the door slammed shut. The ABC blocks that were on the floor fell, and when they were picked up, the word "here" was written on them, indicating that the spirit was present in that spot. Kelly quickly understood that the house was haunted by an evil spirit, especially since the rods she was holding grew very hot, burning her hands. This confirmed that the spirit of the black man was very demonic. Kelly went home to treat her burned hand, and when her son returned from work, she explained to him what was happening with Lawrence. She told him that Lawrence and her children needed her help, and she was determined to assist them. However, Kelly's son also brought a letter from Lawrence. In the letter, Lawrence wrote that she was leaving the house because she could no longer stay there. The memories of her children haunted her constantly, and she could not live in such a terrifying place anymore. The next day, Kelly decided that no matter what, she would rid Lawrence's house of the evil spirits. She moved in, bringing all her ritual equipment. She began by removing the cloth from all the mirrors in the house. Kelly placed various ritualistic and holy items around the house, including holy powder, which she spread throughout the rooms to prevent the evil spirit from leaving. She also hung bells in different places, so if anything moved or a spirit was near, she would hear it. With her holy book in hand, Kelly began chanting the necessary spells to summon and confront the spirits. As she continued her rituals, the house's bells suddenly began ringing, and she saw something in the mirror. It was the demonic spirit of the black man, perhaps trying to show her its presence. Kelly, determined to face the spirits, moved closer to them. As she traveled through the house, she saw Lawrence's young daughter, who was running from one place to another. Kelly followed her, hoping to find a clue. During this time, the evil spirit was actively trying to haunt Kelly, but she had protective spells that allowed her to control the spirits and avoid harm. Kelly repeatedly told the malevolent spirit that it couldn't harm her. She said, "If I wanted, I could bring my spiritual team to destroy you all, but I want to do this peacefully. So, leave this house." However, the spirit didn't respond to her challenge. Kelly began to suspect that this spirit might be far more dangerous than she had anticipated. To protect herself further, she placed small coins on the white powder, hoping that when the evil spirit tried to attack her, its power would be diminished. After preparing all the precautions, Kelly decided to rest for the night. In the middle of the night, Kelly suddenly heard strange noises coming from a room, which sounded like children. Unable to ignore it, she took a candle and went into the room to investigate. Inside, she saw a small doll that was decayed, with maggots crawling out of it. This sight terrified Kelly, and she quickly left the room and went to bed. The next morning, when Kelly looked at herself in the mirror, she noticed marks on her neck, as if someone had gripped it tightly. She was sure it was the work of the spirit. After freshening up, she entered a room and found that the ABC blocks on the floor now spelled "I can," which seemed to be a message from the spirit, indicating that it was planning to attack her. Kelly then discovered strange drawings on the wall, which appeared to be the black man's markings, hinting at something more sinister. Behind the drawings was a letter that Kelly believed held the key to the mystery. She knew that it wouldn't be long before the truth would be revealed. Later, Kelly received a letter from her son with important information. The letter revealed that many years ago, an old woman had lived in the house before it was abandoned for some unknown reason. The letter even contained the old woman's address, and Kelly decided to visit her to get more answers. The woman was 70 years old and nearly frail, having lived most of her life. Kelly carefully questioned the elderly woman about the house, and the woman admitted that she, too, had felt the presence of a malevolent spirit. She explained that she had often seen the black man in the mirrors, and it was a demonic spirit that had killed her brother. After that traumatic event, the woman had fled the house and never returned. She shared terrifying details, telling Kelly that many priests had come to exorcise the spirit, but all of them had been killed. She also revealed that anyone who tried to live in the house was relentlessly haunted and never left unscathed. Kelly carefully noted all the information the old woman shared with her. As Kelly continued to question the old woman about how to get rid of the spirit, something unexpected happened. The drawing, which had fallen from Kelly's pocket earlier, caught the old woman's attention. Upon seeing it, the elderly woman immediately understood what it was. She said, "This drawing was made by my brother," and she explained how the spirit had attacked him. Her brother had tried to warn everyone about the demonic presence in the house, but no one believed him. Despite repeatedly saying that they needed help, neither the police officers nor anyone else took him seriously. Tragically, the spirit ended up killing him. The old woman also shared a surprising story. She told Kelly that several years ago, a man had come to her for help. This man, whom she recognized, had 3 children who had mysteriously disappeared from the same house. The man was Lauren's husband, who had come seeking help to save his children. But the unsettling part was that the old woman had met Lauren's husband years ago, whereas Lauren was telling Kelly that her children had only disappeared 3 months ago. This raised an important question: what was the dark truth behind these events? The old woman confirmed that the spirit had marked her body multiple times, which led her to leave the house and survive. She warned Kelly not to go back to the house because it could be dangerous for her as well. However, Kelly wasn't one to give up so easily. She told the old woman to rest and immediately went to Lauren's house. Kelly then shared everything she had learned from the old woman with Lauren, including the strange markings left by the spirit. Lauren also told Kelly that her husband had lived in the house for a long time, and the same dangerous spirit had given him an unusual mark. Despite all the warnings, Lauren's husband refused to leave the house, leading to his eventual death at the hands of the demonic spirit. This deeply disturbed Lauren, as she realized her children had been trying to warn her about the evil spirit living in the house, but she hadn't believed them. Now, her 3 children were gone, and the truth seemed inescapable. The reason Lauren had left the house and come to the present place was because of the constant threats posed by the spirit. Lauren told Kelly that she didn't need to help her any further, as it could put Kelly's life in danger as well. However, Kelly was determined and decided to continue her investigation. She returned to the house with a clear purpose. This time, she asked her son to bring some books written by Lauren's husband. Lauren's husband had been a university teacher and had written books about his paranormal experiences, hoping to find some answers to his own haunting. Kelly and her son began to read the books, searching for clues. As they were going through the books, Kelly's son suddenly felt a hand on his shoulder, and he became terrified. He rushed to tell his mother, but Kelly, deep in her research, didn't take much notice. Frightened, her son left, choosing to return home, while Kelly continued reading. While going through the books, Kelly uncovered a startling truth about Lauren's husband. The spirit, the black man, had been haunting the house long before Lauren's husband even moved in. When Lauren's husband had his first marriage, the spirit kidnapped his child and took it to another realm. Despite performing rituals and seeking the help of priests, Lauren's husband had failed to save his child. After his first marriage ended, he remarried, and again, the spirit killed both of his children from this second marriage. Eventually, he married Lauren, and together they had 2 children. This revelation added to the growing mystery and horror surrounding the house. It became clear that the black man's spirit had been tormenting and killing the children of every generation in that house, and Lauren's family was no exception. Unfortunately, Lauren's husband was unable to save his children from the malevolent spirit, which led him to take his own life in a moment of despair. He had never been able to solve the mystery, and this was the tragic reason behind his death. When Kelly learned this heartbreaking truth, she was deeply shocked. She immediately went to Lauren and told her everything. Upon hearing the news, Lauren was devastated, unable to comprehend how her life had unfolded in such a terrifying and tragic way. She had no idea that her husband had been married 3 times, with multiple children who had all fallen victim to the black man's evil influence and perished. Lauren broke down in tears, completely crushed by the truth. Kelly, the only one there to support her, convinced her to go to the hospital for treatment so that she could recover while Kelly continued her investigation. With Lauren safely in the hospital, Kelly returned to the dark and dangerous house, known as Darkwood House, to carry on her investigation. Despite the warnings from the evil spirit, Kelly was determined to finish what she had started and to protect Lauren's family from the malevolent forces haunting the house. A few days later, Kelly's son came to her, expressing concern for his mother. He offered to help her with the rituals, wanting to see firsthand how she performed them. Kelly's son accompanied her to the house, and as they moved through the house, he noticed the ritualistic setup, powder and coins arranged in the room. Without thinking, he picked up one of the coins and entered the room. Suddenly, he heard the sound of children crying and called out to his mother. Kelly quickly rushed to his side, but when she reached the room, she discovered that the black man's demonic spirit was there. The spirit trapped Kelly's son inside by slamming the door shut, and Kelly was unable to reach him. The evil force had attacked her son, and Kelly began frantically searching the house for him. Meanwhile, in a tragic turn, Lauren, overwhelmed by grief and guilt, jumped from a high point in the hospital, ending her life. She felt responsible for the deaths of her children and could no longer bear the torment. Back in the house, Kelly was trapped, facing the full wrath of the malevolent spirit, desperately trying to save her son. The dark mystery was now reaching its most terrifying and desperate climax. Kelly, refusing to give up, challenges the evil spirit directly, demanding that it release her son. She shatters all the windows in the room, ensuring that the spirit has nowhere to hide. She continues breaking down doors until, finally, she finds her son, unconscious but alive. She quickly takes him to safety, away from Darkwood Mansion, and finds him a quiet place to rest. However, Kelly cannot simply sit idle. She retrieves a magical book filled with information on paranormal activities and their solutions. As she flips through the pages, she discovers an ancient technique that can banish demonic spirits. The technique involves finding the skeletal remains of the spirit's body and covering it with holy water or a similar sacred substance before burying it in the ground. Once done, the spirit's power is destroyed. With time running out, as the spirit grows more powerful, Kelly knows she must act quickly. Once her son has recovered, they return to Darkwood Mansion. They search the house, and eventually, they find the skeleton hidden beneath a door in an upstairs room. Kelly instructs her son to follow the ritual's rules and bury the skeleton properly to ensure the spirit is vanquished. But the black man's spirit is not going to let them succeed so easily. The moment they find the skeleton, the spirit materializes in front of them, blocking their path and viciously attacking. Kelly and her son finally come face to face with the terrifying black man's spirit. It's so horrific that neither of them dares to face it again. Meanwhile, at Lauren's house, a candle has ignited a fire that rapidly spreads throughout the building. Callie, weakened and overwhelmed by the spirit's attack, falls unconscious. But her son, determined to complete the ritual, knows that the rules must be followed to the letter. He grabs the skeleton and, without hesitation, takes it outside to perform the final part of the ritual, even as danger looms. After completing the ritual and burying the skeleton with holy water, Callie's son desperately tries to save her, but the fire has spread too far, blocking his way. Inside, Callie is unconscious, but a mysterious hand reaches out to her, guiding her out of the burning mansion. Callie regains consciousness and follows the hand, walking out of the fire. However, when her son tries to enter the house, he sees his mother calling to him. As he gets closer, he notices a strange, unnatural smile on her face. It becomes clear that the person calling him isn't Callie anymore but her spirit, as she has died. The moment he realizes this, he quickly pulls his mother's lifeless body from the fire, escaping just in time. Though the ritual was successful and the black man's spirit was banished, Callie paid the ultimate price, her life. The hand that had guided Callie out of the flames was revealed to be the spirit of Lauren's husband, who, along with Callie, had defeated the black man's evil presence forever. Despite her sacrifice, Callie's actions freed the house from the curse that had plagued it for so long. Her son, devastated by her loss, knows that she gave everything to protect him and to end the darkness that had haunted them all. Thus, the story concludes with the shadow of the black man finally lifted from the house, but at the cost of Callie's life. Her bravery and sacrifice were the key to ending the terror, and though she's gone, her legacy lives on in her son, who witnessed her courage until the end.